the last topic then, the last bit we're going to study in the topic of probability is looking at two-way tables. This is another way to represent your data for probability calculations instead of a Venn diagram, and it's particularly useful for complementary events. So we've got an example here. I surveyed some students on their homework track record in maths for the term compared to how much Fortnite they played. The question that I want to ask now that I've collected this data is whether playing Fortnite for more than 2 hours a day will have a detrimental impact on your homework record. So I've split my data into two complementary events either way. So either we've got people playing Fortnite for more than 2 hours or less than 2 hours, and we've got submitting more than 2 pieces of homework for the term for maths and submitting less than 2 pieces of maths for homework for the term. So what I'm just going to do to this symbol, which you haven't come across yet, is add a little sign at the bottom there. That now means equal to or less than. So if they've submitted 2 or fewer pieces of homework per term, that's what that symbol means there, and this means they play Fortnite for 2 or fewer hours a night. So we've covered all of our amount of time there. We're not just skipping the 2-hour mark completely, we've got that included in our data. So the data I found then was if people played Fortnite for more than 2 hours and submitted more than 2 pieces of homework, there were 2 people that managed that. There were 10 who played it for equal to or less than 2 hours and submitted in more pieces of homework per term. For less than 2 pieces of homework and they played it for more than 2 hours, there were 14. And there were 4 people who played Fortnite for less than or equal to 2 hours and submitted either 2 or fewer pieces of homework for the term. So that's the beginning of our table. I've split up then into 2 complementary events. Now we're going to look at our totals. So the total amount of people that submitted more than 2 pieces of homework over the term, whether they played more or less Fortnite, were 12. The total amount of people in my survey group who submitted less than or equal to 2 pieces of homework over the term is 18. And I've got a total then of 30. Now we need to check up that the numbers balance out. So for people who played Fortnite for more than 2 hours per day, we've got 16 people because we're adding these 2 together. And for people who played Fortnite for 2 or less hours a day, we've got 14 people. And yes, those add up to 30. So a two-way table is helpful because I can now see how many students I surveyed. Alright, so we've surveyed 30 students. I know how many people played Fortnite for more than 2 hours, how many played it for less, how many submitted more than 2 pieces of homework, and how many submitted less. Then my data goes into even more detail in these 4 squares here. So what I can look at then is some probabilities. So you can use your number of total possible outcomes. And you can now pick your favourable outcomes. So let's do an example. We'll do the probability of submitting more than 2 homeworks. So for here, I need to go to my total over here because this amount of people submitted more than 2 pieces of homework. So I know that we've got our favourable outcomes are 12 and our possible outcomes are 30. This can simplify down to 6 over 15. And again, you can put that into a percentage and a decimal as well. But we can interrogate our data a little bit more now because I want to know how many people played Fortnite for more than 2 hours and submitted 2 or fewer pieces of homework because I want to see what the chances are of people being able to play the game and still maintain their homework track record. So let's have a look at the numbers that I'm interested in. So we've got playing Fortnite for more than 2 hours and submitting more than 2 pieces of homework. This is a number I'm very interested in. So I can now put this into my equation. So I've got the probability of submitting more than 2 homeworks and the probability of playing Fortnite for more than 2 hours is equal to, I'm not going to be able to, I might just be able to fit it in there, 2 over 30, which simplifies down to 1 over 15. So I can tell from my data that there is a very small chance that you can maintain a high Fortnite track record and a high homework track record. So these tables are very useful in displaying your data, and you can write conclusions for this data based on your probability calculations and the amount of detail you've been able to spread this data into your two-way table.